A meal service on a Scandinavian Airlines flight in the late 1960s looked more like a fine dining restaurant than a modern airplane cabin. Flight attendants would present a full trolley of fresh meats, cheeses, and fruits directly to the first-class passengers. On the set of The Empire Strikes Back, actor Des Webb stands in the full shaggy wampa costume designed for the monster's attack. The bulky suit was primarily used for the long shots in the snow, while the more memorable close-ups used a puppet to menace Mark Hamill. Before industrial factories, pasta makers in Naples, Italy, would hang fresh spaghetti on racks to dry in the open street air. This method, captured here in the 1870s, relied entirely on warm, dry weather and shows the gritty reality of food production from that era. A 22-year-old Lauren Bacall lights a cigarette, already possessing the signature sultry look that made her a film noir staple. Just 2 years before this photo, she made her screen debut opposite Humphrey Bogart, creating an on-screen chemistry that led to their famous real-life marriage. During a break on the set of the 1959 epic Ben-Hur, Roman centurions trade their chariots for a more modern Italian ride, the Vespa. This moment captures the strange downtime reality of filming one of history's biggest blockbusters at the famous Cinecittà Studios in Rome. Long before he became a household name for his brutal honesty on TV, a young Simon Cowell was working as a record producer in the 1980s. During this period, he had minor success, but was also responsible for novelty records by acts like the puppet duo Zig and Zag. Before becoming a Hollywood star, Audrey Hepburn was a trained ballet dancer who endured the Nazi occupation of the Netherlands. To support the Dutch resistance, she gave secret dance recitals in blacked-out rooms to raise money, where applause was forbidden to avoid attracting attention. A rising star, Sophia Loren, gives a kiss to her younger sister, Maria, in 1955, years before Maria would marry the son of Benito Mussolini. Loren herself grew up in extreme poverty during WW2 and remained fiercely protective of her family throughout her career. During a break while filming the 1967 movie Two for the Road, Audrey Hepburn fools around with a makeshift cricket bat on a beach. The film itself was a departure for her, using a non-linear timeline to show the ups and downs of a marriage over 12 years. An early motorist rides an autoped, a gas-powered scooter marketed as the motor vehicle of the millions in the late 1910s. The machine could reach speeds of 20 miles per hour, and pushing the steering column forward acted as the clutch, while pulling it back applied the brake. Aviation tycoon Howard Hughes operates a large remote control console to pilot a scale model of his enormous H-4 Hercules flying boat. This meticulous testing was typical for Hughes, who poured millions into the Spruce Goose project, though the actual plane would only make one short flight. The man in the bowler hat is John Schrank, photographed here shortly after he shot former President Theodore Roosevelt in Milwaukee in 1912. Roosevelt survived because the bullet was slowed by his 50-page speech and glasses case, and he famously insisted on delivering the speech before seeking medical attention. Country music superstar Dolly Parton and the Rolling Stones' frontman Mick Jagger share a hug backstage at a New York City club in 1977. The two were just friends enjoying a night out, but the photo captures a unique moment between two of the biggest stars from completely different music worlds. The Twin Towers of the World Trade Center are seen here during their construction phase in the early 1970s. The tower top cranes were a specialized Australian design, nicknamed kangaroo cranes, which were engineered to lift themselves up as the buildings grew. Arnold Schwarzenegger takes a ballet lesson with dancer Marianne Claire to improve his bodybuilding posing routines in 1976. The training was featured in the movie Pumping Iron and helped him bring a new level of grace and control to his physique, which he used to dominate the sport. A front-end loader clears heavy snow in New York's Chinatown during the massive blizzard of February 1983. The city was paralyzed by nearly 2 feet of snow, but banners supporting Mayor Ed Koch's re-election campaign are still visible through the haze. 4 months after her honeymoon with Joe DiMaggio, Marilyn Monroe performed for over 100,000 service members in Korea as part of a USO tour. She later said the trip, which consisted of 10 shows in 4 days, was the first time she felt she was truly a star. Professor Albert Einstein stands before a blackboard at Princeton in the 1940s, with equations from his work on unified field theory visible. He dedicated the last 30 years of his life to this challenging pursuit, aiming to unite the forces of the universe under one theoretical framework. A woman examines the Sinclair microvision, a British invention from 1966 that was billed as the world's smallest television. The tiny device, small enough to fit in a pocket, was a technological novelty, but never achieved commercial success due to its high price. Even as the Civil War raged, President Lincoln insisted that construction on the U.S. Capitol's new Iron Dome continue without delay. He saw the project not as an expense, but as a powerful symbol that the Union itself would endure and press forward. Before the invention of radar, soldiers used acoustic locators like this to detect the sound of approaching enemy aircraft. These large war tubas would help aim searchlights, but became obsolete almost overnight with the arrival of superior electronic detection. The Baltimore shipyard operated at an incredible pace during World War II, building hundreds of Liberty ships to support the war effort. At its peak, the yard's 47,000 workers could construct a massive cargo vessel from keel to launch in as little as 10 days. Sergeant Stubby, a stray dog from the streets of New Haven, became a decorated hero during World War I. He served in 17 battles, surviving a poison gas attack, which gave him the ability to warn his human comrades of incoming chemical shells. Members of the Los Angeles Women's Traffic Squad posed with their motorcycles and a clear warning for speeding drivers around 1927. The sign's message, "Go slow and see our town, go fast and see our jail," was a light-hearted but firm approach to traffic enforcement. Actress Dorothy Dandridge shares a quiet moment with a soldier shortly before she made history in 1954. For her leading role in Carmen Jones, she became the first African-American woman to be nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actress. Coming off the success of Alien, Sigourney Weaver was photographed by Helmut Newton in 1983 with a striking androgynous look. This powerful image challenged her on-screen persona and became a famous example of the photographer's provocative style. The winners of the Miss Perfect Posture contest pose with their trophies and their x-rays at a 1956 chiropractors convention. The unusual pageant judged contestants not just on their outward appearance, but on the straightness of their spines. A golf course employee in the 1920s wears a cage-like ball collector's guard for protection on the driving range. This primitive piece of safety equipment was designed to prevent serious injury from stray golf balls, while he gathered them by hand. Jim Henson holds Rolf the dog, the first Muppet to become a national television star on The Jimmy Dean Show in the mid-1960s. Rolf's regular appearances made him a household name years before Sesame Street and The Muppet Show were created. An Iranian family relaxes on a Caspian Sea beach in the early 1970s, a time when Western-style swimwear and customs were common. This beach scene stands in stark contrast to the cultural norms that would be established after the Iranian Revolution in 1979. American civil rights activist Robert F. Williams meets with Chinese leader Mao Zedong in Beijing in 1963. Williams, who advocated for armed self-defense, was living in exile and was received by Mao as a symbol of revolutionary struggle against U.S. policy. A department store in 1974 displays the latest in color television sets, complete with wood grain cabinets and shag carpet platforms. That GE television in the foreground cost $16,500 Mexican pesos, a major investment for a family at the time. The first rocket launch from Cape Canaveral, a two-stage vehicle named Bumper 8, lifts off in July 1950. This experimental rocket, combining a German V-2 with an American WASI Corporal rocket, marked the beginning of America's journey into space from Florida. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. sits for a mugshot in Montgomery, Alabama, after his 1956 arrest for organizing the citywide bus boycott. This image became a powerful symbol of the quiet determination behind the fight against segregation. The famous Hollywood sign is seen here in 1935 with its original text, Hollywoodland, which served as a massive advertisement. It was first erected to promote a new, upscale real estate development in the Hollywood Hills. A young Whoopi Goldberg is photographed photographed in 1984. The same year, her one-woman performance, The Spook Show, caught the attention of director Steven Spielberg. This raw portrait was taken just before her breakout role in The Color Purple launched her to international fame. Jazz singer Ella Fitzgerald sits for a portrait in 1945, already known as the First Lady of Song. By this time, she had several hit records and was a major star of the swing era, celebrated for her vocal clarity and improvisational scat singing. Al Pacino and Diane Keaton share a laugh on the set of The Godfather in 1972, offering a stark contrast to their serious on-screen roles. These candid moments show the actors unwinding between takes of one of the most intense films ever made. Singer Nat King Cole walks with his son Kelly through Disneyland in the early 1960s. Despite his worldwide fame, Cole and his family faced blatant racism and housing discrimination back home, making this happy public moment all the more poignant. Famed aviator Charles Lindbergh accepts a medal from high-ranking Nazi official Hermann Göring in Berlin in 1938. The friendly meeting, widely publicized, severely damaged Lindbergh's public reputation in the United States ahead of World War II. The HMS Vanguard, Britain's last and largest battleship, is seen here newly completed in 1946. Although a powerful vessel, it was finished just as the era of the battleship was ending, making it an impressive but quickly obsolete piece of naval history. A candid photo from 1955 shows Elizabeth Taylor applying her makeup, offering a glimpse into her private routine. At this time, she was successfully transitioning from a child star into one of Hollywood's most bankable adult actresses. Female workers assembled the plexiglass nose cones for A-20 Havoc bombers at a Douglas aircraft plant during World War II. These Rosies were a critical part of the home front effort, filling industrial jobs while millions of men served overseas. Actress Suzanne Pleshette, known for her distinctive husky voice, models a classic 1960s beehive hairdo and polka dot dress. She was a familiar face in film and television for decades, later finding her most famous role on The Bob Newhart Show. Arborists in the 1890s climb high into the branches of a massive tree to perform pruning and maintenance. The photograph highlights the dangerous nature of the work, done with long ladders and basic tools, long before the use of modern safety equipment. A fruit stall in Kabul, Afghanistan, displays its abundant produce in this color photograph from 1961. This scene captures a peaceful and prosperous era, a stark contrast to the decades of conflict that would later redefine the country's image in the West. Actress Veronica Lake poses by a pool in the 1940s, showcasing the signature peekaboo hairstyle that made her famous. Her look became so influential that during WTOI, the U.S. government asked her to change it to prevent female factory workers from getting their hair caught in machinery. President John F. Kennedy and First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy watched the America's Cup races off the coast of Newport, Rhode Island, in September 1962. They are aboard the USS Joseph P. Kennedy Jr., a Navy destroyer named in honor of the president's older brother who was killed during World War II. Actor Gregory Peck studies his lines on the beach while filming Beloved Infidel in 1959. He portrayed F. Scott Fitzgerald in the biographical drama, and those flashy two-tone spectator shoes were a signature part of the author's real-life wardrobe. A lineman works on a utility pole in Pratt, Kansas, around 1911, showcasing the chaotic web of early telephone and telegraph lines. Before the invention of bundled cables, each wire carried a single circuit, requiring this massive and cluttered overhead infrastructure.